Peace family. Chef Joseph the Entrepreneur back at you again with another video. Chef Joseph the Entrepreneur back at you again with another video. Man, glad y'all can tune back in and everything. And hopefully you've been gaining some insight on, some of the knowledge I gained in the restaurant industry and really just real life events. Again, I talk a lot about this because those of you who are aspiring to do not just business, but you might want to be doing more with your life, period. You're going to go through a lot of series of changes. You're going to lose people who you thought that was like really a ride or die for you, and then they turn out to be fugazis or fakes. And one thing about business and entrepreneurship and just life in general, especially if you're going into business, because your name, your brand, a lot of those things are very, very important. When I was in the church years ago, I remember they were saying, the scripture talks about how a good name is worth better than, prices and riches and stuff like that. And you really don't take that to heart. You know what I'm saying? At least I didn't. I heard it, but it just kind of went through one ear and out the other. And then as a young man, I had my trials. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it was a time that, yeah, it was questionable. you know, but I was able to pull everything back in and build, a level of, I was able to come back from that. I'll say it that way. So I talked to you a lot about those type of experiences, things that I went through and things that you will go through, or some of this, try to say some of the things that will prepare you for your next season of what you're about to do. Now, today's topic, people may want to know, okay, a little bit about my background in the culinary world. One, I never thought I would ever be into cooking. Like, you know, when I was younger, my mom would go to work, you know what I'm saying? She would go to work and I might make me a fried bologna, egg, and cheese sandwich, which was my favorite at that time. And yeah, they were pretty tight, toasted bread and all that. But as I gotten older, a lot of my family members, people that, I grew up with, they were like, man, you always been cooking. But I guess because I really never thought about it, you know what I'm saying? It's just something I did. So, and then I later became a chef, you know. Give you a plug. The new book release. He came during the Civil War. He came during the Civil War. It's the Chef Joseph story. You can go to hecameduringthecivilwar.com. And it tells you, anyway, tells you everything that's there. So check that out. But today I want to talk to you about is the restaurant industry for you? Is the restaurant industry or the restaurant business, is that going to be good for you? Man, so let's start here. Like, when I really think back, I never really thought that I would be a chef. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that I really set out to do. It was something it was in my blood. Um, and to tell my story, the book tells everything of how I got into it. But I can tell you that, man, how did this start? So yeah, basically, I was homeless at one time. You know what I'm saying? When I moved to the area, to the ocean, to basically build, my hot sauce brand. And I um, couldn't find a job. I was fired or laid off, from 11 jobs actually. Couldn't find a job. And then one day I was sitting with some guys and they was like, man, you supposed to be the hot sauce man. Why you not selling hot sauce? And I was like, man, that's true. It just sat, and I just sat quiet with that moment because I literally transitioned from the mountains to the ocean, literally, to the oceanfront view and all that kind of stuff because I had a hot sauce brand back in my hometown, which is beautiful, the mountains, the Blue Ridge. Y'all know about the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains and the Shenandoah Valley and all that stuff. Beautiful, God's country. But I knew with that brand, I would have to, at some point, I would have to leave the area. You know what I'm saying? Because I needed to be around water, fresh fish, things like that. And literally, when I moved here, I worked temp jobs and stuff like that, trying to, gain my footing. And when I went through my stint of homelessness, it wasn't because I was like on drugs or anything like that. It was literally, it wasn't because I was doing anything crazy. It was really because I was trying to build my brand. And as a young man, yeah, you go through things, but when you start wising up and getting older, you realize you need to start putting some foot to pavement. You know what I'm saying? And so from there, what ended up happening, I couldn't find a job. And so with little money I had, I literally found me a commercial kitchen and started leasing my kitchen, a place where I could legally make my hot sauce, ChefJoseph'sKickSauce.com. And so started making my kick sauce and started selling it out of the trunk of my car. And then somewhere I got a lead, about farmers markets, the farmers markets. And so I was like, man, that's a good idea, to basically introduce your product, to the public. And so I literally started right there at one of the farmers markets, selling my kick sauce, Chef Joseph's Kick Sauce, and people loved it. And when I first got into the business, one of the things that I did, I had I'm not saying an experiment, but one of the things that my kick sauce really went well on was white cheddar cheese popcorn. And because of the flavor profile of my kick sauce, it just like it melted in your mouth. And every time, almost every time, people would try it, they would buy it, 2 or 3 bottles. And so it was just amazing, to see the growth. And then after the market, after things started growing, or let's just say we have a slow market that day, the idea came to me. I literally mapped out what I'll call a hot sauce wrap, or not wrap, a hot sauce route, or a kick sauce route. So literally, I started um, literally, you know, in the ocean area, ocean Tidewater area, however you want to put that. And I literally went from barbershop to barbershops, selling my hot sauce, and people when I first walked in the door to some of these salons, they look at you crazy because you got a whole hot sauce bottle in your hand. It's like, what are you about to do? You know what I'm saying? But I was there to sell my product, and so yeah. So they was like, well, let me sample it, let me try it, and so I literally let them try it. You know what I'm saying? And then I literally just started building a following, just by going to barbershops and salons, and became known as the hot sauce man. That's what happened because it was a good product. Still is a good product. And so from there, so after the farmers markets, I literally would go to the salons and I would map out a route. So sometimes I wouldn't be finished till like the market would be over around let's just say 2 o'clock. And from there, I would hit the pavement on the hot sauce route to sell the rest of the bottles that I did not sell. And so yeah, that's what happened. And so I literally started from selling one bottle at a time. And then I messed around. I won't get into the whole story because you can actually read the book, but I can tell you that I had another opportunity that opened up to um, to do seafood, to fry fish at this particular location. And I didn't have any money. I was just building my brand, but I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And I literally from there went to Amazon, purchased two little fish pots, little king fish pots, and king fish pots, and I literally started frying fish under a 10 by 10 tent, literally. Just trying to build, you know what I'm saying? Look up, got into the food truck space, all that stuff as well. And then I look up, I sat in a whole restaurant. Matter of fact, two restaurants, um, which I had to pivot from. Well, I haven't really pivoted. I've just basically changed directions and decided to kind of like, let's just say, step down because I have been putting years in the business. You know what I'm saying? And so it was just time for me to take a break. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then pass that on to, you know, to those who stood beside me and to provide opportunities. And that's what happened with me. And so there's not any level of this business that I don't understand from product development. If it's not product development, it was product development, and then you had and then the seafood space. You know what I'm saying? Fresh seafood. So having the connections with that, and then and putting out a good product. So coming into that is what I would say. And that brings the question like, are you built for the restaurant business? Is it for you? Part of the reason I decided to pivot, really, because I mean, it definitely is a demanding field. It can definitely take a toll on you if you don't have or it takes time to take care of yourself or self-care. That's very important. Having self-care, taking care of yourself, you know. And I noticed that, yeah, when you look around, you've been doing this for a long time, you have to take that time out for yourself. It can be tough. And like I told you, I pivoted, to bigger things actually. But my thing was this was a launching pad for me to get to my next level. As you should look at your life and see, you want to go to the next level. But the restaurant business itself is definitely demanding. I know every area of it, from product development to the food trucks to restaurants, like how to open them, everything. And I'm self-taught and went to culinary school. That's the next thing. So yeah, I did become a chef. Um, I really didn't think about going to culinary school. I didn't really just put two and two together until a customer had pointed out to me, and her and her husband was like, "Are you a chef, Chef Joseph?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but no." And it was like, "Wow, well, you got chef on the bottle. You're not a chef?" No. No. So I actually took that as a cue that I should basically be doing something with that. And so that's when I spun it and enrolled into culinary school and came out with a degree and everything, you know what I'm saying? And so just putting everything together, that's what brought the story together. And I later found out that my second great grandfather was a chef in the Civil War in 1859. And that's why the title of the book is He Came During the Civil War. And so, yeah, so when people see me and they say, "Oh, chef, this, that, and the other, man, oh, I'm so proud of you. How did you do this?" And I said, "You know what? I guess he came during the Civil War because he actually did. He came, he preceded me, into getting to where I am today, But I definitely have made a major pivot moving into, if you go to he came during the Civil War. If you go to that website, you'll see everything on the next level, and that's it. That's its own entity within itself. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's my story, but it's its own baby. Just letting you know that. You know what I'm saying? And it's growing wings on its own, and and all that kind of stuff. So, but it is my story, and I was able to tell it. So yeah, check that out. So, however, is the restaurant industry for you? You know, I can tell you now that if you do not have work ethic, it's not going to work out. It's just not. You have to be involved, especially when you're starting your own restaurant or your own food truck or your own company, food business, whatever, which I do consultations on that as well. How to start your businesses, your food business and things like that, how to brand your business and stuff. Um, but if you do not have the work ethic, it's not going to work out for you. A lot of people want to get to the top, but they don't want to start from where I started from. It's 2026. I should be able to jump to the top. No, it don't work that way. You have to learn the ropes of the business. You have to learn them. Because if you don't learn the ropes of the business, how are you going to be able to nurture something you don't understand? How are you going to nurture something that you don't overstand? How are you going to nurture these things when you haven't put in the work to know what it takes to make it happen? And so many people that I've heard, "Oh, I can cook, I can do this," and oh my God, everybody like this. Look, the last video, don't talk me to death. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk me to death. Like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Don't talk me to death. One of the things that I can honestly say that I've learned about people, especially being in this field, the culinary field, there's a lot of people who talk about it. They want to talk about it, 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 how good it is. Oh, you should try. Why are we boasting about how good something is? Why are you not putting it into the stores? Why are you not opening up your own stuff with it? Why? What, God just gave you this just to talk about it? Do you think God pleased? Absolutely not. I'll answer for him on that one. I'll answer for him on that one. But yeah, because you weren't given this gift to cook, make pies, bake cookies, to sit on it. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's recreational, but if you can't find a job, just like I couldn't find a job, My product was my job, pushing my brand. So I know that level of salesmanship, which translates behind a cash register, which translates into payments and systems and all these kind of things, And so, yeah, that's what it leads into, But it is a tough business. You must be able to take care of yourself. I ain't playing. I'm serious about that one because that's one of the major things, is that even though you're in business in the restaurant industry, it is easy to get lost in the business because you're dealing with employees, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with scheduling, you're dealing with taxes, you're dealing with, you name it. One of the things I said at that time, I was like, if it ain't the water, it's the fish. If it ain't the fish, you got to change your grease. If it ain't the grease, it's tax time. If it ain't tax time, somebody didn't quit. Did they leave a note or say why they quit? No, just quit. Work and get 2 checks and just quit. Those people will not go far in life. I know this, and y'all know it too. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a never-ending story. You know, I can tell you that if you decide to open up a business, you must have standards. You must have them. You must have them. You must have them. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't have your standards in your business that you built, people walk all over the top of you. And not to mention, that's the back end of the house. That's the back end. Now let's talk about the front end of the house. The front end is where not only are you dealing with the back end stuff, people coming in late, somebody didn't show up, got to change your grease, got to prep fish, you got to do this. Then you got to take all of that, and then you still got to greet the customer with a smile. They don't know all the backstory. I know the story from purchasing to the end product, all the way. Every last step, I know it. I've learned it. I've been doing it for a very, very long time. You know what I'm saying? And again, it was a time I wasn't here. I was not where I am. You know what I'm saying? I literally was homeless. And people would, make their little, comments. How you gonna be the hot sauce man here in the shelter? I literally slept in like shelters, winter programs and stuff. But see, like I did that because I was building my business. So I have no pride in saying that yes, I was at that time homeless. Yeah, literally. You know what I'm saying? And I have, yeah. And guess what? We'll do it again if necessary. You know, but one thing those type of lessons teach you, they teach you how to survive. And another thing, it teaches you to lose your pride. That's the next thing. And if you're wise and you're truly wise, you'll make a plan to get up out of it. And that means developing your product. That's what it means, to develop your product so you can come up out of this situation. And at this time, I still see some of the same people still sitting, like the shelter just gonna keep feeding them. But I have like well, not a situation, but if I had a wish, okay, if I had a wish like now, this is not applying to everyone because you have people that are homeless or that were homeless or that are homeless not because of a situation of fault of their own. They're basically homeless because they're trying to get on their feet, and they're literally trying. They're looking for work, they're looking for the programs, they're looking for the systems to help them, and those people, hands off, kudos to them is what I'm trying to say. But then you have those who just sitting back waiting on handouts. You know what I'm saying? But if I had a wish, for real, this may be a little controversial what I'm going to say because see, I was once homeless and I know what it's like to climb out. And I don't want to hear, well, you did it, chef. Not everybody can do it. Yes, you can do it. If God gave you all functionality of your brain, your fat, all working parts and things like that, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to climb out of homelessness. For real. But it comes with a plan and a product or a service, things like that. But anyway, I just wanted to drop this video off, to you, drop this video off to you to let you, to basically talk about is the restaurant industry for you. And if you decide to go in it, if I can give you some key advice, if you can find a good solid partner, yeah, starting with a good solid partner, someone that you can trust, because you may need to go like appointments. You have kids may need to go to school, something may come up. You may have to get go to the mechanic shop. Well, how you gonna do that if you're doing it all by yourself? You know what I'm saying? You gotta be able to have systems in place so you can take that time off and then take time off for vacation for your mental health and things like that. So that's some of the advice that I would give you. And as you start growing, just know, and you coming from scratch, you will make some haters. You will, you know. But like TD Jake said, and these are his words, and I'll end it on this. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that one. But TD Jake said it. Giraffes do not entertain conversations with the turtles. They're on two different playing fields. The giraffe sees high. His view is broad. Like, look at the giraffe's view. A giraffe's gonna see things on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? An open level. It's miles for miles as far as you can see. Nothing against the turtle, but they on the ground. That is where they are. That's what they see. Not knocking the turtles, not knocking the giraffes. I'm just gonna say, or ask you, which one would you be? Which one would you be? Chef Joseph Kicks Off the Entrepreneurs channel. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Got to roll. Got a little bit of work to do today. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Peace.